Thank you so much, Shalaka. Thank you, everyone. This is very humbling to be here. So distinguished guest today, Honorable Dr. Patuka sir, Ranade sir, thank you. Dr. Belsre, thank you for presiding over today. Chairman Dr. Shinde, Dr. Khedgikar sir, my friend Dr. Hande, and all the distinguished guests and dear students. First of all, happy Foundation Day to everyone here. It's a tradition of joy and pride that has been ingrained in every student's mind that passes through BOVET or BVC. We fondly call it BOVET, Bombay Veterinary College, short for Bombay Veterinary College. So I'm greatly honored to be here to speak at the Ratanbai Gharda Oration at my own alma mater on a topic that has been the purpose of my life. It's a big occasion. It's a really, really big occasion for a dreamy-eyed boy that walked the corridors of Goregaon campus at night, catching snakes and frogs with his friends. Those friends who at the same time thought he was crazy, but they were still with him. So thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to share my journey and maybe inspire a few souls here. So without further ado, let's begin. A little bit about myself. So my background and my work that I've done in India. So I've worked as a program coordinator, probably the best job of my life. The program coordinator for 2 tiger ecology projects. I was the lead tiger ecologist, research fellow for a wild mammalian carnivore project in Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve. And those projects were run by IISc Bangalore and Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research. Before that, I was before coming to veterinary science and after I graduated from Bombay Veterinary College, Mumbai Veterinary College, I was also the head wild animal rescue and rehab head. I headed the team to head wildlife team to rescue wildlife and rehabilitate them. I was also the veterinary officer. I was also the department head of reptiles in Uttara's Ark. Uttara's Ark is a wild animal rescue and rehabilitation center run by Indian Herpetological Society at that time. In the due course of time, during my time in India, I also served as advisor to the field director of the Tadoba National Park. So I was fortunate enough to serve under 2 different field directors in my time at Tadoba. So one of the things that I'm really proud that of my participation is I was able to successfully rally and stop the Lohara coal mine project near the core area of Tadoba National Park. Moving on to the UK, I spent some time in the UK working in the field of wildlife medicine and surgery. So I worked as an expert delegate student on student conference on conservation science in 2008. It was held in University of Cambridge. That gave me an opportunity to interact with teachers there. That it gave me an opportunity to interact with people in the field that actually make a difference and do great research work. So I ended up being a field mentor to students pursuing PhD in wildlife from Universities of Cambridge and University of Exeter, UK. I also worked as my first time to the US was as an alligator field biologist. I worked at the Everglades National Park as part of 2 really amazing projects. More on that later though. So I still do act as a field mentor for PhD students pursuing PhDs in wildlife from Princeton University and UC Davis University. By field mentor, what I mean is I teach them field techniques to track, follow, collect samples from wild animals, and just how to survive in the wild. That's pretty much what I do as a field mentor. Texas Wildlife Rescue Network is what I currently do. And it's like Shalaka just mentioned, it's a wildlife rescue and rehabilitation organization that I run. It's a free to people service that we provide here. And this is all done by Bushcraft. It's all under Bushcraft. It's an NGO, non-governmental organization dedicated to bringing sustainable solutions to human-wildlife conflict globally as well as locally. A little bit about my journey here I'd like to share. Why do people become veterinarians? The reasons are so different and could be as different as people and often unique. My reason is so uncommon. For those who do not know, I was the head of rescue and rehabilitation department in a very famous and busy wildlife rescue center. I had a whole career going. I had a great job that I never wanted to do, that I always wanted to do. It never felt like I was working, but sometimes I was losing rescued animals due to a lack of specialist wildlife veterinarians at that time in Pune. So this is around Pune. Why just Pune? Even in India, for that matter, there was a lack of specialist wildlife veterinarians. There were experts in the country, but they were few and far between. The closest help that we had was a local zoo veterinarian who would double as a zoo vet as well as a private practitioner. So my rescue team and I would rescue animals such as deer, hyenas, foxes, leopards, monkeys, porcupines, you name it, and we would be asked to rescue. That included snakes, that included a lot of other animals as well. Many times I was called upon to rescue abandoned or orphaned litter of leopard cubs. And although we knew how to care for them, although we knew how to raise them, we did not have the critical skill, that one skill and knowledge that would make the difference between life and death. So even with a very successful rescue center that we had, I still felt the need to get that one skill, that capability that was missing in doing my job to the best of my ability. That skill that we were missing was to provide targeted medical care required to save these animals' lives. So we would bring back injured wild animals after some seriously daring rescue operations, oftentimes in the middle of the city as well. So only to find no vet available to attend to them, or the veterinarians would lack specialist knowledge and expertise to treat these wildlife emergencies. When we would call the vet, he would just give a standard line of treatment, and he would say on the phone, hey, start the animal on the drip, give them some dexamethasone. And by this time, I had learned how to give IVs and mix injections, etc., and mix them into the IVs that went into the animal. The vet would come later and would say, okay, now we just monitor. So we would give the same treatment for any kind of injury, internal, external, serious injuries. So I knew that was not right, but I was not a veterinarian then. And I would end up having a dead animal at my hand. But honestly, to be fair, it was not always the vet's fault. This was around 95 to 96, 1995-96. For veterinarians, wildlife-related courses were just not a part of their syllabus. And at the most, there would be a 1 credit course to cover the entire wildlife medicine, management, husbandry, etc. So where are the experts or wildlife specialists, veterinarians going to come from? So after one such death too many, I decided that I had lost way too many animals just waiting for the vet. I decided to be that specialist veterinarian who can dedicate his full time and attention to treating such wildlife in need. So I applied to the BBC. I got in. I was so thrilled that I was going to be able to help wildlife with an additional skill, that ability. But little did I know that my life was going to change forever. Being a vet, that too a bow vet, is one of the best things that can happen to you ever. But more on that later though. So I continued to rescue, treat, rehabilitate wildlife during my time at BBC. The picture that you see on the screen is my team. The picture that you see on the screen is my team of small rescuers. Maybe there is a lag here. So I'll just wait for the picture to come. Yes, now. So After joining the BVC in the Goregaon campus, tribals and local kids were my new friends. Moving on from here, I completed my BVC and went back to the rescue center and continued my work with an added capability now as a veterinarian. Unfortunately, during one such rescue operation, I had an accident and I broke my back. I was paralyzed waist down for the next 10 to 12 months. So being bedridden gave me an opportunity to slow down a little bit, and that also gave me an opportunity to get in touch with a few reptile experts outside India. Reptiles are my first love, so snakes and crocodiles. So these experts were world-renowned authorities in snake and crocodile research, and as fate would have it, I was offered. As fate would have it, I was offered a research position in the Everglades National Park under one of these researchers. One Dr. Frank Mazzutti was my principal investigator, and he offered me a job. So I picked up and left when I was able to physically. I picked up and left and took that job up. These were very exciting research topics, and they allowed me to work very closely with alligators, and also gave me an exposure to how wildlife research is done outside India. After Florida, next was the University of Cambridge. There I worked for a wildlife biology professor I had met during the SCSC conference, the student conference for conservation science in 2008. So just as I was settling there, the research projects in Tadoba and Tadoba Tiger Reserve came along. Working with tigers is a dream of any wildlifer. I was no different. Within the next 10 days after taking that job up, I had reported on duty in Tadoba from UK. The job was to manage both projects entirely. I was responsible for 2 projects as a program coordinator and as a lead tiger ecologist. So this gave me an unprecedented access to, as a researcher, to parts of the park where they were not open to other civilians. So these parts are not open to civilians or any tourists otherwise. They are really core areas of the park where actual conservation work really happens. So I was living the dream. Tadoba required me to use all my knowledge, skills, just to run the daily day-to-day operations of the projects. Best part was working with remote villagers, tribals at the grassroots level, also with the grassroots level forest department staff. Their dedication to the project to protect tigers in their park, despite conditions that they work in, was a very humbling experience for me. I was living my dream, spending endless days living with tigers. It was cooking or just eating Parle-G for food. Just drinking water from crocodile-infested streams, sleeping under the stars, or just plain trees, sleeping under plain trees. I was like living the dream. Soon I was requested by the then field director to teach tracking tigers and other skills to such as use of GPS equipment to the anti-poaching squad. While I taught them how to track, they taught me a lot many more things. This is a bunch of guys that will put themselves between angry villagers or a poacher without any regard for their own safety. And believe it or not, these guys are hired as temporary laborers for their life. They are never made permanent. They spend their lives as temporary laborers, and that is our anti-poaching squad. This is one of the most efficient and stalwart anti-poaching squad that you see on the screen. I was always used to working with forest department staff before, but this was a different level of dedication I was witnessing. To track and follow a tigress, stay with her physically just to make sure that she and her cubs are safe from poachers or any traps that poachers may have laid. It was a very tough job. The tigress would not think twice before killing any of these guys because they were so closely tracking her. And I was a part of that. These are our unsung heroes of the tiger conservation. It was during this time that Bushcraft, my NGO, was formed while working in Tadoba to help local tribals and give them a stable livelihood to people such as this anti-poaching squad. My work in Tadoba ended abruptly due to family emergencies, and I had to move to Texas. I never intended to live outside India, but here I am, and the work still continues. Living in Texas, I now operate and manage a very unique wildlife rescue operation. Texas Wildlife Rescue Network in Texas is a free-to-people service like Shalaka mentioned earlier. It's a small team of volunteers that rescues about 200 to 250 animals yearly in a densely populated metropolitan city. And the rescued species include snakes, squirrels, bobcats, coyotes, foxes, birds. I've had to track and capture a crocodile. Sorry, not a crocodile, alligator in Dallas Metroplex as well. So this rescue model is based on a creative use of popular social media, Facebook, Twitter, and others, Instagram. So I use social media platforms to bring rapid help to this distressed wildlife. This unique wildlife rescue model is being recognized as one of its kind in any major metropolitan area in the world. That was a little bit about my journey. I'm here to talk about the veterinary graduates' prospects in the world of wildlife. There are really countless avenues available to a young veterinary graduate or a budding veterinarian. To be honest, there is no one single avenue that will guarantee you success. But I'll try to cover some that are available for veterinarians who want to make a career in wildlife or related disciplines. I'll also cover what worked for me and a little bit of my work along the way, just to give you an idea of the possibilities that can be availed. First off, very first thing I would like to say here is, if you're looking to be rich with money, or if you envision a big business empire and sitting on a throne to just control your business empire, then this field is not for you. However, if I can guarantee you that this field will make you rich with unique experiences, that's a guarantee. It'll give you a job satisfaction like no other, and it will also help you sleep soundly at night. If you work hard enough, you will end up as a subject matter expert. And the best part, above all, is the competition and the rat race for a career in wildlife is almost non-existent. So there you go. So what are the different career paths here? Wildlife research. This is by far one of the most popular career paths for veterinarians and other biologists alike. There is a myriad of research topics and projects going on around the world. There are research projects going on under epidemiology, disease surveillance, multiple other disciplines that need veterinarians. Best way to get there is through either a higher degree or by volunteer work of some kind. So universities offer courses that will allow and require you to work on such projects that will give you exposure to wildlife sciences. That could be your one entry into this field. If wildlife research is what you want to do in your life and get into, I would highly recommend supplementing your veterinary degree with a certificate, diploma, or a higher degree from an institute that specializes in wildlife or environmental related courses. And they also conduct research projects of their own. That's the fastest way to get into this. So this will open, so having these degrees or extra courses, higher credentials will help you open quite a few doors. And major institutes are in India, Wildlife Institute of India. Many of our alumni from Mumbai Veterinary College have graduated from Wildlife Institute of India. There is also Wildlife Conservation Society in Bengaluru. That's a global society and it will give you global exposure. They are doing some amazing work. Technical or technology institutions such as IIT, they offer energy and environmental management masters, MTech and PhD. Indian Institute of Ecology and Management also offers masters and other PhD programs. And Outside India, there are literally countless universities around the world that offer programs that will introduce you to the world of wildlife research. The next one, and my favorite, is wildlife rescue and rehabilitation. In my experience and my personal opinion, this is the best way to use your veterinary skills and experience doing the real hands-on work in wildlife rescue and rehabilitation center. So this by far will give you the most hands-on contact with wildlife on a daily basis at the most frequency. So if this is what you want to get into, start getting involved as early as possible. Find groups that are near you and that work in this field. And India has a great network, not necessarily network, but India has a number of small rescue organizations or even groups like myself, what I did in Goregaon campus. Those small groups do great work. So get in touch with those. Start volunteering. There is no substitute to experience gained through volunteer work. Do it during your college days. Do it during your free time. It gives you significant head start when you graduate. In my case, I started when I was 8 years old and never stopped. By the time by the time I even started at Bombay Veterinary College, I was an experienced rescuer and rehabilitator. When I graduated, because I had already spent several years volunteering and then working, I didn't have to specifically look for a job. The job I wanted was ready for me. That might not be the case for everyone, but the quickest way to get into a rescue center is through volunteering and demonstrating your passion and skills and drive. It paves the way for to a fulfilling job. There are many reputed wildlife rescue centers in India that are doing incredible work. Similarly, there are also volunteering opportunities specifically for wildlife veterinary students all over the world. It's Africa, Amazon, one of the best opportunities for veterinary students I'll highly recommend to explore are in Amazonian jungles. Africa, Australia has a lot of good opportunities that are specific to wildlife veterinary students. So when volunteering, don't just learn about the medicine and animals, learn about how a center is run. That's my best tip to you for today. If you want to get into rescue and rehab, learn how a center is run. That's by far the most important skill that you're going to learn. Learn the day-to-day operations, finance, community outreach. All of these skills are equally important to sustain in the long term. If you're wanting to help in a big way in a rescue and rehab field, your sustainability is extremely important. If you can't sustain your own operation, you're not going to be working in that field for long. So I'll highly recommend that you learn how to run a center. Running a wildlife rescue center is a very unique skill to have. So although rescue centers contribute tremendously to wildlife conservation, the effort is almost always local, and that's a limitation. So unless you're doing it, it's local in a geographical area. Unless you open a chain of rescue centers, you're going to be working in a limited area. I would like to point something else out though, because we have a number of ex-students who are now in the field, a number of veterinarians in the field right now. So something interesting I noticed in India, and this is something I realized very heavily when I was working in Tadoba. In India, attending to wildlife emergencies is primarily a responsibility of government agencies such as the Forest Department. And for any treatments, they will tend to rely on local LDOs or similar government veterinary officers. They will not go to private practitioners unless that private practitioner is known to them. So in our current system, LDOs have a great power to be involved in local wildlife conservation efforts. But just being an LDO is not going to give you the knowledge and skills to treat wildlife. You will need to work hard to acquire them through courses, seminars, and training programs. But the best way to do it is if you want to be an LDO and still contribute to wildlife conservation, I highly encourage you to pay attention to how you can use veterinary skills to treat and rehabilitate wildlife when you are a student. Also, the harder you work to learn the wildlife medicine during your college days, the better you are going to be able to help as a veterinarian. If you become an LDO that can handle, treat and manage injured wildlife, you're going to be a celebrity in that area. And I've seen this firsthand. In some cases, this happens rarely, but it does happen. In some cases, the forest department works in partnership with private non-governmental organization. Private organizations really have to work hard to gain trust of the officials and then get an opportunity. So I was fortunate that I was able to do that in my career. I was able to showcase my skills and my experience, expertise in first capturing wildlife, then treating them, and then passing that knowledge on to forest department staff. But not everybody is going to be that fortunate. So I highly recommend that you start making contacts, you start networking if you want to go in that field. The third one is very well known, but not very common: wildlife management. While India does not offer very many opportunities for wildlife management, because wildlands in India are managed through forestry management practices, there is anything rarely done for actual animals to the wild. There are some instances where there are helping hands provided by the forest department with the aid of veterinarians, but it's not a very common practice. So our wildlife management is restricted almost entirely to forestry management of their habitat. But places like South Africa, USA, Australia offer good opportunities for wildlife management. Wildlife management includes herd management, wild land and habitat management, population management, etc. Tranquilizing the animal, taking sample is a part of your job there. In Africa, some projects allow you to do this on a scale of thousands. And I was fortunate to be a part of that during through one of my friends there. So the best way to get into this field is to get a specific degree in conservation medicine or wildlife conservation and management. There are multiple universities all over the world that will offer these courses. You'll find a lot of universities offering wildlife conservation and management courses, also conservation medicine courses. Next one is zoo and exotic animal medicine. This discipline is as much about management as it is about clinical skills. I spoke about free-ranging wildlife maybe earlier, or I missed. I don't know how many of you heard. This usually applies to captive animals. So zoo and exotic animal medicine is usually applied to captive animals. You still need to know the same things. You still need to have the similar skills, but captivity alters behavior. So as a vet, you need to observe, research, learn, and address it. So habitat enrichment in captivity is a highly valued skill, and this is where your animal husbandry from your BVSC and AH will be really tested, and along with your clinical skills. Unfortunately, opportunities in India are limited for zoo medicine, but it's a very well established discipline outside India. So in India, under exotic animals, avian medicine, aquarium medicine are fast growing fields. We have some of our alumni that have really advanced in avian medicine and private practice. So aquarium medicine is something I hear is fastly catching on in India as well. So in many cases, wildlife veterinary experts come from zoo medicine, and that's a very valuable thing to have. The knowledge and experience of a zoo veterinarian is invaluable to wildlife research. So although before I came to Mumbai Veterinary College, I used to think zoos are a dead end. But honestly speaking, after speaking with and after working with world-renowned veterinarians, I think their knowledge and experience is invaluable in wildlife research. So same as in wildlife management, universities all over the world offer degrees in zoo and exotic animal medicine. This is a relatively easy field to get a structured hands-on experience. You'll find that this field has the most internships, externships, and volunteer opportunities of all the other fields that I'm going to mention. So highly recommend, if you're interested in that, that's something that you want to do, just explore that. Just keep in mind that it's a limited field in India, but it's a very well established discipline outside. Freelance wildlife veterinary services. It's a very unusual service that I've noticed that recently, in the recent past, in the last 10 years, there is a very huge growth in this area of veterinary services. So these are usually outside India, but each country is different. So there are veterinarians who are subject matter experts in various topics of veterinary science, be it clinical, non-clinical, epidemiological. So these are SMEs that offer services and solutions to local governments, say national parks, communities, communities hit by human-wildlife conflict, issues, and/or research projects. So but you need to develop skills to become a subject matter expert in one or more areas. You need to build a team and find projects. So this is a traveling team of subject matter experts. They travel with their team and provide end-to-end turnkey solutions for various organizations. So if you remember the recent issue of Avni the tigress, multiple organizations that work in Africa for similar issues, carnivore man conflict, man-eating carnivore conflict. They kind of literally flooded to India with their teams. Of course, not a lot of people got in and got their jobs, got those contracts, but they actually literally picked up their teams and they literally stayed in India trying to get contacts within the government to get a contract. Also, there are field research projects where tranquilizing the animal freelance SMEs around the world make a significant contribution here. Some governments, even game reserves, vaccinate thousands and thousands of wild animals. If you see wildebeest, some private game reserves, countries like Kenya, Ghana, to save, this is their livelihood for the entire nation. So having an epidemic wipe out a wildebeest population, which is in thousands and millions sometimes, is not going to be very good for them. So they spend time and money in vaccinating these ahead of time. And these projects are ongoing, and it's always fascinating to work there. The best point of entry is to get experience through is internship, academic programs, volunteer work, or gain hands-on experience to join an already established group. So these are very specialized people. They offer very specialized targeted solutions, but it's growing very quickly to be a highly lucrative field. Something that I want to mention that doesn't get talked about a lot in wildlife field, wildlife forensics. This would generally fall under freelance services. Veterinary parasitologists and entomologists can play a pivotal role here. So I've seen people make their careers just being veterinary parasitologists, and now they are wildlife forensic experts due to their veterinary skills, veterinary parasitological and entomological skills. Many of these projects will need highly skilled veterinary services to perform technically sound necropsies. This is another thing I would like to mention actually. So speaking of necropsies, there is a little lag. So this is me, for people who can see on the screen. This is me performing a necropsy on a wild tiger, which was found dead in deep jungle. So if you can see it on the screen, yeah, it's coming now. There it is. So if this is a wild tiger that was found dead in deep jungle, like I said before. These are field conditions. What you see is field conditions. This tiger was found laying dead in the water hole that you see behind, and it took the team, the anti-poaching squad. This was not a poached tiger. The tiger died of natural causes, but it took them 3 days to just find it. And the only way we found it was vultures. The vultures were the ones who showed us this tiger, that there is something dead. So this is me performing a necropsy on this wild tiger. These are the field conditions. Transporting this tiger's body, which was almost 200 kg, to a veterinary facility in its current condition was not an option. So what do we do? Per central government guidelines, each tiger that is found dead has to be a necropsy, a technically sound necropsy has to be done legally, as well as per IUCN guidelines. You need to know the guidelines. So, like I said, picking this tiger up was not going to be an option for us. It took us 20 people in field conditions to literally pull that tiger a few feet away from that water hole that you see. For me, myself, identifying the exact muscle in the animal and taking a muscle sample at the exact depth was of paramount importance for my own project. So success of my project depended on that. Performing necropsy in the field is no joke, seriously. Forget your surgical equipment, that the luxuries that you have in a operation theater or a surgery table. Most times all you'll have on you is a small box in the backpack and the knife or axe that you carry. You see the axe on the wood there. I used that axe to break open the thoracic cavity of this tiger. There was no way nothing that I carried that day, no saw could open this dead tiger's thoracic cavity. So I literally used that axe to hack into the thoracic cavity, and then I was able to access the visceral organs inside. Tiger, elephant, crocodile skins, muscles, bones are not going to be cut through by a scalpel. The scalpel will just not work. Here you can see I'm using an axe, like I said. So how do we actually start going there? So I mentioned the avenues of getting into the wildlife field for a veterinarian. It's not always going to be a veterinary science specific field, but you can always, if you're nimble on your feet, you can always pivot and get a higher degree or a different degree that will allow you to be in a position where you can work on wildlife specialist programs. So these are some really world-renowned institutes that offer degree or certificate programs. So it's a well-known thing that Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, has many veterinarians who have enhanced their capabilities by doing MSc there. Similar institutions like IISc Bangalore, Wildlife Conservation Society, like I said before, it's going to give you a global platform. ICER, Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, that's my own alma mater. It's an organization dedicated to science, education and research, and it is based on the IIT and IIM models. So that's how important science and education for these institutes are. So ICER solely focuses on that. Then there is BNHS. BNHS does some amazing work, and our own Dr. Percy Avari has done some excellent work before he became a professor there. So some really excellent work in vulture conservation. Many of you know that he's already a world-renowned vulture conservation authority. There is foundations like Chilka Foundation. So Chilka Foundation will allow you to work on projects that allow you to Irrawaddy dolphins. This is one of the only species of brackish water dolphins that we find in India. Irrawaddy dolphins. So Chilka Foundation works for conservation of that dolphin, but conservation efforts needs to be derived from heavy research work. So that's what Chilka Foundation does. There are some excellent master programs in Texas A&M University. I know a few students. One of my volunteer students is from Texas A&M University. Purdue University, Princeton University, they have amazing programs, really great programs. So all of these universities are abroad, but they have sponsorships and grants. So great programs in University of Edinburgh, Exeter. I was the field mentor for PhD students for behavioral ecology. And that's a great program. My student ended up going to the Sahara Desert and Australia for their first jobs. So internships, externships, and volunteer opportunities are the best ways to get there, and they're also available. So these are some that are available and that I know. These are world-renowned programs, and students from all over the world, international students, come and do these internships that you see on the right of the screen right now. And I would highly encourage the budding vets to explore this option here. Hands-on work that you get here doing these internship and externship programs is second to none. So the challenges that we face here. So the biggest challenges are pretty obvious. I'll speak about challenges in India first. So there is no mainstream career called wildlife veterinarian in India. Honestly speaking, there are veterinarians that is fast changing, but that still is the case that it's not a mainstream career. So there are also no structured specialization or degrees for wildlife. So some universities, colleges offer programs that are a few courses, a few credit courses. There are some programs, but veterinary colleges, veterinary science universities, they rarely offer a structured specialization or degrees in wildlife. There is no well-defined growth path or avenue in India. And I will be the first person to say that although I've had a decent career in India, I'll be the first person to recognize that there is no well-defined growth path or avenue. I was really fortunate, but not everybody is going to be that fortunate. So also one more thing, why we don't have a structured specialization in or degree in wildlife is that there is no dedicated role for wildlife veterinarian in any government branch. You'll see forest department people, you'll see government veterinarians become government officers in revenue services, other services, they become LDO as government officers. But if you see, there is no wildlife veterinarian dedicated role to a wildlife veterinarian that he can do his use his wildlife veterinary skills in any government related job. So that's one of the main reasons why we don't have degrees to cater to that position. There is also societal recognition. It does not. Times are changing. So there were times when I was regarded as a crazy guy who catches snakes, rescues wildlife, and he's not. I'm going to starve to death because I can't earn money through wildlife. And they were all right. Whoever said that to me, they were all right. But that is slowly changing, or actually very fast changing. Now there is a lot of societal recognition in India, but unfortunately it does not equate to financial stability, unfortunately. So challenges abroad are similar. So degree may not be directly transferred. So the degree that you earn in India, degree that you earn in BBC may not be directly transferable. There are some countries that allow you to use that degree without needing to recertify, but most countries will need you to recertify. Actually, I'll go even further and say countries like USA, each state will have their own exams. So if you hold a license in state of Florida, that license to practice veterinary medicine will not be granted, will not be valid to practice veterinary medicine in Texas. So there are so many caveats. So that is not transferable. The biggest hurdle that I see for veterinarians that want to come outside and work in wildlife veterinary field is the work visa. For coming and doing voluntary work, which is free, coming and doing internships or externship that are for a minimal stipend, governments provide you visa, but to come here, come to a different country, come from a different country and be a full-time employee, work visas are very hard to come by. That is one of the biggest hurdle for Indian veterinarians to come out and work in that field. Another thing is expensive. All these degrees outside and education outside is very expensive. So there are seriously, a lot of degrees, a lot of disciplines, too little time to cover all of that here. So I'll highly recommend you do your own research. Absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to help you out or guide you in the ways that I know and something that has worked for me. But it's up to you to do your own research. There are people around you to guide you. Just reach out. Making contacts and networking is the best way to go forward. So best example, best question that people ask me is, when should I start? Right now. Your journey must start at least 1 or 2 years before you graduate. Yes, That's exactly what I said. 1 or 2 years at least before you graduate. This is not a degree. BBSc and AH or any veterinary degree is not a degree where you can wait until you finish your internship and then try to decide what do you want to do in your life with that degree. Unless of course you have a family business to join, so you have a source of income ready. So apart from that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact details with the presenters and the committee here. I'll also share it in the next slide. On the occasion, so I'm so thankful for this opportunity to speak on the occasion of this Foundation Day, and it's only fair to mention how BVC, Bombay Veterinary College or Mumbai Veterinary College, has had an impact on my professional as well as personal life. Professionally, there have been really countless stalwarts, industry leaders that walked the BVC corridors as students and went on to make illustrious careers and contributions, heavy contributions to the field of veterinary science. Some of these stalwarts are sitting here with us, some as faculty, some are here in audience. On a personal side, BVC gave me the best days of my life. I would like to say that. The Goregaon campus in the middle of a dense RA colony jungle was like a playground to me when I joined. So unlike other students in my batch, I came in while I already had an ongoing career and a job. So just the fact that I rescued snake was so novel to the entire Goregaon campus and hostel especially, that they used to look at me like when I had a snake in my hand when I was rescuing snake, they would still look at me like they saw a ghost. But I see Dr. Hande smiling here. But past all those novelties, I met my lifelong friends here, teachers who have supported me and stood by me, even though at that time they thought I was crazy. So I dreamed most of my veterinary dreams here in the BVC with these friends. So my teachers like Ranade sir, I can't thank him enough for the support he gave me against all odds. He thought I was crazy, but he never tried to stop me or change me or try to persuade me in a different direction. So that gave me encouragement and taught me to believe in my own dreams and ideas to pursue them no matter what. I don't even know the countless times Ranade sir and my friends kept me out of trouble on the campus without even mentioning it to me. So Dr. Ranade sir, I thank you for your unconditional support and guidance. Dr. Awari, Dr. Percy Awari and Dr. Salil Hande, I sincerely thank you for your friendship. It is always cherished as the dearest in my heart. I'm away from you right now, but there's not one day goes by that I don't think about you or your names don't come up in my house. So with that, I'll stop here and open for questions. I sincerely thank you for this opportunity, and I'll open for questions if you have any time left. No problem. So these are my contact details, people. So amolkhedgikar@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer. So just remember that I do run a 24/7 operation in Texas. So if I don't reply right away, please give me some time to reply, but I will reply and do my best to help you out or answer your questions. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone. Over to you, Shalaka.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Amol. I so recollect the memories when you were in our BVC Goregaon campus and carrying snakes around. I do remember you that ways, and that was quite thrilling, carrying the snakes to the classes and everywhere you went. So that was something new for us as kids also. So
Dr. Amol, I would also like to add to a memory, since we were room partners when we started back in '97. And I remember the day that snake was loose and we didn't know where to find it. And eventually after 3 days, that snake was found under our bed. So I just remembered that part.
I know, remember. Yeah. There was also, if you remember, there was also, I'm reminiscing now, but there was also a huge monitor lizard that we had rescued.
Yes,
remember,
yes, I remember.
Entire hostel, because the tribals, the Adivasis were after that, they were going to catch that monitor and going to eat it. The entire hostel, 80 people, literally dug out 3 or 4 truckfuls of rocks and finally rescued that. And we kept that monitor lizard in our room, and it got loose and went into the next room like a dinosaur in the night. So I remember that as well.
Yes,
Some
yes, yes.
Okay, we are running short of time. Okay, Dr. Handy has to say something.
Yeah, Aziz Bhatte's room.
Yes,
Lizard
Aziz Bhatte's room. And Aziz Bhatte, without making a big sound, walked slowly to our room, Arvind, your and my room, and knocked on the door. There is a crocodile in my room, which was the monitor lizard. It was a big monitor lizard.
Okay, with those fond memories, we now move forward